Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Benefit of the Doud. I am your host, Adam the Birthday Boy Doud, and joining me is, as always, is Mr. Cliff Thomas. So say hi, Cliff.
Hi, Cliff.
Hi, Cliff. And also joining us for the second time this month and for the last time
Wow.
ever. No, I'm just kidding. No, for the second time this month is Mr. Juan Carlos Bagnell. Juan, what is up, my homie?
This is the last time I'm going to be on your guys' show for all of 2023. All right?
You had to
I've had it. That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
Game over.
Yeah, I'll see you in a year.
No more
buddy.
podcast appearances until 2024 for you guys.
Oh,
That's all I got to say about that.
That's the see you next year joke at work, basically.
Yeah, it's the best. I was yesterday days old when I found out that the federal government runs a dad joke server. So it's
Really?
like part of like this whole like parenting
really?
campaign, and like buried on one of these what does it mean to be a good dad? There's just an archive of dad jokes, and you can go there. It's your tax dollars at work. It's amazing. I really feel more people need to consume federally distributed dad joke generator.
Well, allow me to say, link in the show notes, people. That is gonna be there.
I'll find it. I'll send it to you guys.
Nice.
It's hilarious.
Yeah,
I love that.
We need to
That's a project.
And like many
note to make sure to put that in there.
dads over the past week or so, for those of us who celebrate Christmas, Adam is now putting together a Lego set, except
Legos.
this isn't for his kids.
Yes,
It's for Adam because
it's for me.
behind him there. Oh, it's a parrot.
I'm doing the parrot, and yeah. So most of this podcast, I'm going to be looking down. It's not you, I promise. So yeah, but yeah, I just figured, I called an audible, and I've got a new Lego set that I want to put together here that I got for my birthday, and I know, and I got it for my birthday because I've already put together all the sets that I got for Christmas. So so that's what I'm going to be doing for this pod. But this is a somewhat annual tradition for the podcast to do a birthday pod for me because it's the end of the year. It's a good time to reflect. We always have a guest, which is awesome, and this year that guest is Juan, and because he's awesome. Yeah. So I'm just going to make it include government dad joke in the show notes.
Oh, man. I'll find it. I shared it on the Discord too, but I'm gonna like send you the link while we're doing this.
Nice, very awesome.
Discord notification. So
yep, that was me. Now
I have to wonder, Adam, since we're talking about your birthday.
Yeah,
I always felt sorry because I had a friend who had a birthday on. If it wasn't today, like we're recording on the 30th of December,
right?
For those who aren't listening or watching this live,
right?
But, I always felt bad for my friends who had a birthday around this because, depending on, I guess it depends on the parenting, right? But you have your birthday and Christmas are so close that some parents would try to roll it together, and I just, as a kid, you're just like, that is not fair.
That's tough.
So my parents always went out of their way to make sure that we had a separate celebration for my birthday, away from Christmas, which I always appreciated.
That's lovely.
And it was backed up because my aunt also had a birthday on January 1st or 2nd, I think. So there were two. We generally celebrated with family with my aunt, which was, so there were two of us with the old birthday cake, which was fun. But yeah, so my parents always went out of their way to make sure that I had a separate celebration, and that's cool. I appreciate that, and it's a rollicking good time. Now the only downside is, of course, no more presents for another 360 days. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
so
my birthday is more towards my birthday's in September, so I mean it's still
you're a September
more towards
baby,
the end of the year, but it's still broken up by some months. And I think Juan, yours is in August or July.
Yeah.
So
wow, well remembered. Yeah.
I have a,
No,
I
it's
have a
great.
weird memory for certain things, right?
Oh, that's great. It's real nice. I mean, it's not quite half the year, but you kind of feel like it's half the year because it's summer to winter. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great little window right there. I almost wonder, I mean, for parents out there, I wonder if any parents are doing like half birthdays for their kids. So that if your birthday's like really close to Christmas, you just not like to do a full birthday with gifts and stuff, but just like half birthday, something special just to kind of go spend a fun day sort of celebrating your kid.
You get 364 on birthdays every year.
So
I'm
no,
a big Alice in Wonderland fan growing up. So
the thing that I always kind of regretted, if you will, was just the fact that I could never like have a pool party for a birthday, because we live in Chicago, so it's cold. Not like you, Juan, when you give a pool party on New Year's Eve if you wanted to.
It's freezing out here. I mean, we hit like right now it's 56 degrees with light cloud coverage.
Cut you so bad.
I had to put on a hoodie again.
Oh my goodness, are you okay?
I'm wearing a t-shirt and a hoodie. I'm wearing layers. That's how you know it's really cold out here.
I have friends in Florida that do pull that same thing with me. Today I had to put on pants. You bastard.
Oh, it's the worst. They chafe your calves. How do people do this on like a daily basis?
At least we don't have to check our shoes for scorpions.
So I think maybe we could start off by just since we're discussing presents.
Sure.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Did you guys get anything? Any tech or tech adjacent presents that you want to talk about? Something cool?
Well,
even if it was for yourself.
I told my family, do not send me tech for Christmas. I've actually said this for a couple years now, but this year I got rid of a lot of stuff. So I've got siblings that have never really seemed all that excited by what I do for a living. They're grown adults and they can buy their own computers and phones and things.
Right.
But this year I was like, we were talking about messaging, and my brother and his wife, they have an old Motorola and an old iPhone. I was like, well, I got a couple Pixels. I mean, you could just have them. And this was the most excited I've ever seen them get. Yeah, Pixel 6s, we'll take them off your hands. It's great. And then I'm at Thanksgiving, and my sister's like, I hate it when I've got to do work remote because all I have is my little Surface laptop. And you're like, well, I've got portable monitors. Do you want me to just send you one? And it was the most elated that my sister has. Yeah, that would be. Oh, and you could just plug it right in, and I'd have a dual display when I trap. And you're like, yeah, I've got a whole shelf of them. I'll send you one. And that to me was the loveliest, actually putting some of this stuff to good use. It's not ending up in landfills and not just selling it. It was it's all going to a good home.
Isn't it nice?
No.
Because I used to sell technology way back in the day, back in the very early 2000s. And I don't really I mean, you get to do this I get to do this on a podcast, to discuss technology, but it's missing that one-on-one delight that when you introduce somebody hands-on and they see which a lot, I mean, some of this is just so ingrained into our culture. It's like when you were discussing I can't remember if it was a family member, but when we were reviewing the Bone Connection headphones, and somebody tries that for the first time. That doesn't happen that often anymore. But I had that experience with my brother, and I showed him MagSafe, and
fun.
Even if you're an Android user, he's actually an iPhone user, but just all of the MagSafe connected accessories that you can get to make your life easier, especially if you're driving and things like that. And it's one of those aha moments. Why haven't I done this before? So that was kind of cool. That's really the only
and it's delightful when it's in the silliest things too. I showed someone a friend of ours is a semi-pro photographer, and I showed her the Peak Design. She has the Peak Design travel tripod, and it was like, well, you need to get the Peak Design case. And I have the little bracket. It's the magnetic. You snap it on. It's got the proper plate and mount for the Peak Design tripod, so you can just slot it in there. Great. And it was like I blew her mind. And this is a $50 case and a $40 mount. for your $600 tripod.
Right. Exactly. They
You're gonna have so much fun with this, I promise.
And what's great about that, about the Peak Design stuff for phones, is that yes, it works with their ecosystem of stuff, but at least for the phone part, it still works with other MagSafe accessories too.
Oh yeah,
and still does wireless charging.
Sure.
I have the little collapsible tripod that just fits onto the back of the phone, and then I also have their wallet, which also becomes a stand, which is really cool.
I'll let you in on a little secret. Personally, I've actually switched over to Ulanzi's tripod system, but they do sell this one F38 to PD mount plate that you rotate at 90 degrees and it fits Peak Design, and then you rotate it back and it fits Ulanzi. So I still have my Peak Design tripod. I still use my everyday sling. Like the Peak Design sling is still one of the best bags I've ever used in my entire life. But the Ulanzi tripods got me to this combo mount. So now I can switch back and forth depending on what I want to carry. It's pretty great. I like it a lot.
That's pretty cool.
I have a Ulanzi, just a portable tripod with the MagSafe head on it that they sell separately that you can. I think they sell it as a bundle, but.
So this is their carbon fiber for their photography, and it's often on sale for less than the aluminum Peak Design. Wow! So it's not a cheap tripod, but it's sub $300, carbon fiber, and then you can see I actually do shoot a lot of stuff even here in the office, and it has this little combo plate. So when it looks like a square, but when you slot it that way, it fits Peak Design. You slot it that way, it fits Ulanzi. This thing has been glorious because it weighs less than even the Peak Design carbon fiber, but it comes in at less than the price of the Peak Design aluminum.
I mean, photography accessories in general are super expensive, but Peak Design in particular, I mean, their stuff is typically great.
They're undercutting hard.
Yeah, definitely.
This is one of those situations where I get to happily say, I'm a writer. I don't have to worry about tripods and other stuff like that.
It's fun.
I just walk in with my iPhone, snap a few photos. I'm good.
We have fun, don't we?
Yeah, totally. There's a trend going on Instagram or TikTok. I don't know what it's called. I'm a photographer, where they talk about like the various aspects. Like there was one guy who was like having his wife guess how much his photography equipment cost, and it was rather hilarious. Like,
that's a dangerous game.
I don't know, this has to be like, this gets you like $50, and he's like $410, and she's like, what?
A lot of that's even before you start talking about lenses. Then you have like regular lens versus prime lens and just all sorts of other things. It's
and just my workhorse
one of the
lens
lenses that he busted out was like
$1,000. Like it's just a normal medium zoom. Like, okay, that's what we pay now.
One of the lenses he busted out was like $2,100 or something like that. And his wife's like, I don't think I should be touching this. And we're like, yeah, you probably. But anyway,
probably shouldn't.
Making payments on it like a house.
So I was showing you guys off air. We got an upgrade to Calvin the caliper.
We did,
which is cool. So this is a all metal caliper. This is from a company called Clockwise. And what I like about it is it's got the tightener on the end there. So like when I make a measurement, I can like lock it in so it doesn't get messed up. But it's also like the old Cal was like, plastic and fine. Like it did its job fine. But like this it has the roller, for the precision measurements and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to diving into this a little bit. But yeah, really like from a tech standpoint, I gotta tell you, I like the idea, Cliff, but honestly, the online caliper fandom is really hard to break into.
Was making a joke, but okay.
Yeah. So
was making a joke.
So that's like the most techie thing I got. I did have so I've reviewed this before on the channel. This is Infinicore P3 charger. The thing I like about it is it's got the the USB-C power delivery on the front, 2 USB-A ports, digital display on the front, so you can see how much is left, and it's got the built-in plug in the back, so you can just plug it straight in. You don't have to worry about wall wart or anything like this. I used to have one of these, and I reviewed it on the channel. and they reached out to me about for CES coming up. And I said, yeah, I'm a big fan of your battery. I used to carry it before my kids absconded with it. I'm like, well, we'll send you another one. Oh, okay, cool. So
I'm good with that.
They sent me this, but 2 packages showed up in the mail on the same day from the same company. And I'm like, okay. So I opened it up, and it was this, and it was a MagSafe charging stand that they make, because I'm a MagSafe whore. I emailed them back. I'm like, I got 2 packages of the battery and the charging stand. They're like, well, yeah, it was supposed to be one set of white and one set of black. I'm like, nope, black and black and black and black. They're like,
you can have any color you want, so long as you want black.
As long as it's black.
Right.
Yeah, they're like, oh, well then I guess give them away as Christmas presents.
Nice.
Like, okay.
Aww, that's nice.
But yeah, so I really dig this company, and they've got something new coming to CES, which I'm kind of excited about. So, but I can't talk about yet.
Yeah, did you guys get like some fun outreachy stuff? Because like I unfortunately replied too late for OnePlus on their terrible sweater. So I didn't get a terrible holiday sweater this year. But Infinix sent me a gimbal, so that's kind of fun. It's a little motorized gimbal. And OnePlus still sent their wireless charger, which is interesting because their current phones don't have wireless charging. I wonder what that could mean. That I have this 50-watt charger here that charges phones at 50 watts. It charges phones faster wirelessly than Apple or Samsung can charge over a cable. But their current phones don't have wireless charging. What happened?
Well,
I don't know.
Hey, interesting.
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah. Well, and it's like I said for, what was it? Was it the OnePlus 11? I think like if wireless charging relationship status was a thing on Facebook, OnePlus would definitely have to check. It's complicated because like now we have it, now we don't, now we have it, now we don't. Sometimes. I'm in the camp of I don't miss it when it's not there if I have actual fast charging. I'm going to tease miss it when it's not
for
there.
Your podcast. And you guys are getting the scoop.
Exclusive.
I'm doing a collab with Ricky, the YouTube tech guy, and he loves wireless charging. And I could miss it, but we are both collecting our arguments, and we're gonna have like an actual cross-channel knockdown, drag-out fight over how the other is wrong about their preferences for charging.
Ricky Villacruz?
Are you talking the
Ricky,
the Cybernut?
Oh no, not from GSM Arena. No, Ricky, the YouTube tech guy. He's he took over for me at Newegg. He's the better than I was content producer over at Newegg.
Cool.
Nonsense.
I just felt like it was like they went to a guy like who wears hats to a guy who has a much nicer head of hair, but we're both bearded Latinos, and kind of softer on the midsection guys that like to talk about nerdy computer stuff. It was like, who can we get to swap out Juan? And you're like, Ricky.
And
that's funny.
Speaking of,
we look like we could be cousins. So anyway,
speaking of that hard to break into niche. Speaking of hard to break into niches on YouTube, you've got that Latino middle-aged, softer on the middle niche that you need to defend that territory, man. You need to defend that territory. I'm just saying.
I need to reach out to my fellow middle-aged Latino brethren, because this is the age where we all start kind of dropping off social media and online video and stuff. So gotta see if there are a few more out there that we can kind of band together.
You gotta keep it rolling. I got it. How about you, Cliff? Did you have anything this year? So it was your question, so I'm assuming you.
I know it cycles back to me. The only piece of tech that I got was actually something I got for myself, because I'll start with actually something that Juan was talking about, and as I actually have gotten rid of a lot more tech than I've gained over the last 3 or 4 months. And first of all, it made my wife really happy, because she's always, we have boxes everywhere, and because I'm a guy who keeps not all the boxes,
everything,
especially for
right.
I mean, like most middle-aged tech guys, I have, in fact, I think there's one under my desk right now of cables, just the box.
There's a middle-aged tech guy underneath your. Oh, okay. Sorry.
But
Never mind.
I had a
Someone's laughing at that joke, and that's good enough for me. Okay.
But anyway, sold some phones, sold a laptop, and in addition to bringing in a little money into the house, I did use that because I got a great offer from Google because I'm a Google One subscriber. I got 40% off the Pixel 8 Pro.
That's awesome.
Gorgeous.
A heck of a deal. Yes, in the blue. This is nice.
Yes.
And
very cool.
Yeah.
And you've been using that for a couple of days now. How you digging that?
Ooh.
Blue was the correct color choice. Blue is always the right answer.
Yes.
Wait,
all the way back to my cyan Lumia.
But is it MagSafe, Cliff? But is it MagSafe?
It will be.
Well, because you need it because Google doesn't support fast charging. So you've got to spend way more on chargers and coils and stuff. Because it takes forever to charge this phone.
It does.
It does. It actually does take quite a long time to charge.
You don't realize
it's like, oh yeah, it's like the one little thorn for as much as I love this as a ubiquitous computing assistant device with great cameras. If I start running low, it's like, okay, it's going to be plugged in for a while.
Get comfortable, everybody.
I'm transitioning from a OnePlus 11 too, which had ridiculously fast charging. So
it's like the polar opposite. Oh man.
Yeah, but it does have the wireless charging, so there is that. But yeah, so I barely have had a chance. I mean, I've been in it for less than a week, and
that's great.
But I haven't had a chance to test out the new video feature with basically Night Sight built into it for processing in the cloud.
I need to try that too.
And that's not what they call it for, but
Video Boost.
Video Boost. There you go.
Video.
But my last Pixel was a Pixel 6, so I skipped a generation, and even then, just the on-device AI stuff that it's doing, just things like using voice dictation, where it's immediate. And now the punctuation when you do pauses and things like that, it actually gets it.
So good.
The natural language part of it is amazing.
Can I tell you a trick that I did during the Apple MacBook event? I was assigned with taking notes for that particular event. So I set up my Pixel 8 to do dictation into a Google Doc.
Nice.
And I just set that up next to the presentation playing there. And I took notes too, but we ended up with the entire presentation transcribed into a Google Doc. So if anybody could be like, hey, what was the price of the, it was right there.
And searchable.
It was really nice.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And searchable. Yeah. And so to that end, the Pixel 8 Pro is going to be my primary device at CES. I'm going to use that for everything. Anytime I go into an interview or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. And it takes great pictures. It's your one-stop shopping for all things needed for a trade show. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's
I love it.
There's not much that I can complain about. You're talking with any premium, if you want to call it I hate the word flagship because it's so overused.
I divide by price. I'm because the flagship is just the best phone a company sells.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, it means nothing if you're comparing a flagship to a flagship. You're like, well, if I've got an Infinix, that's a $300 phone. If I have an iPhone, it's like a $1,200 phone. I guess they're both flagships. So no, I don't play that game. I go entry level for pricing, then mid range, premium, and ultra. So I've got 4 tiers.
Yeah.
And I feel like most phones can kind of slot somewhere in there. The most exotic ultras are foldables. The most exciting sort of entry levels are now $200, like that $100 to $200 range. I feel like that does you way better for properly comparing, so that you're sticking oranges to oranges with what these phones can do.
So
yeah, totally.
I thought one of the things we would talk about, we were briefly discussing this in our Discord, but maybe just kind of talk about the year of tech in 2023, maybe something that you want to discuss or a few things that you want to discuss. And Adam, I think you also mentioned maybe thoughts on what may be coming up in 2024.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, definitely. Both are on the table, and both are pretty, generic. So I think that's what people are looking for these days. But yeah, like my big thing for 2023 was this was the first year that I really got foldables. Like, and it's just because there was so much more in the foldable space than there had in the United States foldable space, I should say, than there has been in the past, and that just makes me smile the biggest smile. So, yeah, we got your you got your Pixel Fold right there,
you guys, and your plethora of your money bin.
I don't want you telling me I have a blather if you don't know what a blather is.
That's the stuff from my seat in my car.
But no, so like
Plethora.
I just felt that, like, the I'm trying to carry the conversation here, guys.
No,
Back me up.
and you're doing it all by yourself. We're not helping at all.
I am. Not even a little bit, and I appreciate that. Really.
Sorry, vegan leather.
But no, I appreciated how good foldables got this year in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's fair.
Because like the Samsung Fold was never a real great option for me just because of how small the cover screen was, and the fact that the Pixel and the OnePlus Open both nailed the cover screen so well, and in different ways too. Like, there are different options for how you might prefer to use a foldable phone, and then like the Razer redefined, not really, but just how well Motorola implemented the cover screen on the Razer is just equally awesome. So like, yeah, I just love the fact that this year was like the year of the foldable.
I still feel like foldables are still something of a public beta test, because consumers have no understanding of the differences in durability, the expectations, where it's safe to use these things. They think they're cool. But this was the first year. I agree with you. I went from dual display. I was a Surface Duo and an LG fan. I preferred dual display because you had glass. And this was the first year, just with you, same with you, just getting some competition, some different form factors, different hinges, different features, different cameras, like on the OnePlus Open. I felt like I could take this a bit more seriously now this year. And I am actually looking I'm looking more forward to next year to see if we can kind of refine this idea even further.
And yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I just really hope we continue to get some experimentation and the playful energy up with foldables, because I hate in one aspect it's nice to see it sort of mature in terms of there being basically two different form factors,
right?
But at the same time, like I was kind of hoping, because we still have things that we still might see, like a rollable, right? Like what they showed, like what who was it that showed it off?
Oppo and LG both showed off. Yeah. Oh, TCL had a hinge.
TCL,
I mean, not a hinge. A motor designed for that too.
Right.
Yeah.
And when LG was doing cool things like I think I can't remember what it was called.
The Wing.
It was the Wing. There we go. It had such a cool name too. Just not seen a whole. I still love the idea of weird phones, but more than that, I mean, I really hope that.
Hang on, while
there it is, the Wing. Yeah,
I love this thing. This was like my production B camera for like almost 2 years.
Yeah, that gimbal.
The Wing was
on the video
so good.
Part was so cool.
Yeah.
It
was really good.
I'm hoping that of the phones or the manufacturers that offer foldables, I'm hoping that some of them outside of Samsung actually have some market success here in North America, because I mean, you can offer a great device like the OnePlus Open, but I mean, OnePlus has had its struggles that are probably a lot to do with its own making. But between them and Motorola, they've offered some what I think are really compelling products that maybe in some ways surpass what Motorola is doing, especially on the camera side with with OnePlus.
Yeah.
But if they don't sell well, will they continue to be entries into our
OnePlus
market?
really nailed the camera.
That's what I'm hoping that they've had some sales success.
OnePlus really nailed cameras this year, big time.
So that they'll continue to offer products like that, and we're not just we don't.
I think the thing that OnePlus has going in their favor now is that Oppo is looking at this as a sort of a streamlined label. And they went out and said, hey, we're looking at OnePlus as this new sort of standards bearer, ultra low margin. And so like when the OnePlus 11 came out, oh no, we lost wireless charging and the fancier main camera sensor, but like the phone sold for like under $700.
Right.
It was this clear shot against what Samsung was doing with like the base model S23. So I feel like as long as OnePlus exists as just another label they can put on the box for products that Oppo sells in other regions, they're not going to face the same scrutiny as Huawei and Honor. They're never, I mean, they're never going to go after a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a BBK brand.
Right.
There is no high technology. They're not trying to sell networking equipment here. I think they can fly under the radar, just keep a sort of a grassroots movement here in the United States, and they become these brilliant, like, disruptor devices. I don't think there's expectation from OnePlus that they're going to be in the top 5 without a carrier deal, but this keeps a toehold in the United States where so many other companies have left or never tried to do business here in North America.
With a real, like you were saying, a relatively low investment. In terms, since they are basically just,
which is to say, and by low investment, you mean like they had to buy a OnePlus sticker to stick it to their Oppo phone.
I mean, really,
that's the bulk of the investment there.
It's a red box now.
Cables. I know. And I mean,
I was the same thing. Like on the Open, it is just the Find N with Find N3, and they had to emboss a little OnePlus logo in the case. So that was probably pennies of investment to switch over for North America.
It literally is just them going with another laser engraver and they're just changing the finish on the back when it's going through the finishing process.
And I actually feel like that's a better play. I actually worry about Xiaomi over the next year because they've got Poco, Xiaomi, Redmi. They've got is it Redmi or Realme? I can never remember. Anyway, they've got like 4 different sub brands that each put out a phone a week. And then they're all sort of like just varying little flavors of different parts and bits and pieces. But you end up at the end of the year going like, if it's not the Ultra and it's not like the Pro, it all kind of feels the same. And you got to be really careful about how saturated your market gets when the differences are so fine from model to model.
Their cadence on products there too for a while. It was like 2 a year, kind of like what Realme is doing, where it's like just like 2 and a fine grain,
and in every tier.
Right. And I get the market saturation thing, but number one, how does that affect your brand value and the brand recognition for people that are a fan of your, like, how would you feel, first of all, if you were somebody that had just purchased a phone and then that 6 months later you have, or a model replacement? I have to feel like that's got to be frustrating if you own one of their phones. And then 2, what about
or even
not even mentioning software support, not even mentioning
updates and patches and bug fixes and carrier agreements and licensing and regulations for different spectrum, and it's got to be it's got to be a mess. But they seem to be selling a grip of phones, so that strategy is sort of their flavor of it. Oppo kind of taking a more conservative approach to OnePlus because they don't feel like radically, completely different designed devices. The Oppo Find X6 last year felt a lot like it could have just been a OnePlus Ultra. Like, you picked up the phone, you handled the phone, you picked up a OnePlus, you handled the OnePlus, and you're like, you know what? These feel like they came from the same company. They didn't feel like different pieces or different gadgets unique to themselves.
Outside of Vivo, which does seem to have like more of its own product development.
Vivo has a distinctly different flavor, even though they're borrowing a lot of the same parts.
But Realme, Oppo, and OnePlus. I mean, the software is really not that much. Oh, is that Vivo?
Yeah, it's the X100 Pro.
Nice.
I just got that in.
Oh,
I literally shot with it for a
gimbal
day.
video.
So no, actually, they've kind of backed off. It still does have excellent image stabilization. It still has that trick where you can take a Vivo, and if you're shooting 1080p, you can do horizon stabilization where it doesn't. You can turn the phone a full 360 degrees. So Vivo does it way better.
Okay.
But yeah, similar ideas.
Conceptually.
Well,
so the biggie here is the trio of cameras on the Pro more closely matches the trio of cameras and focal lengths on the Pixel 8 Pro.
Okay.
So it doesn't feel quite as much of a, because I still have my X90. The X90 dropped the long telephoto, and the X100 is keeping the long telephoto. They got rid of the portrait sensor. So this didn't make a lot of sense on the X90 because if you just go to a 2x zoom, the main camera sensor looks really good at a 2x crop.
Yeah.
A dinky little portrait sensor actually doesn't look as good as cropping from the main sensor. But then the new hook here is the high resolution. It's got a high res mode for the telephoto, and it's got a closer focusing lens. So your macro mode actually is better from the telephoto than from the ultra wide, which is really cool.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's a brand I wish we saw in North America. I don't know why, but they kind of give me Sony vibes, and I have, other than like the Zeiss stuff, it's just I just kind of feel that way. But so it's exciting. I was gonna say, and maybe this is a lateral for us since we're talking about. I know we were talking about 2023, but
it's a birthday podcast. We can talk about.
We'll just go all over the place. But in terms of 2024, one thing that I'm really excited for, and I think because everything does feel very. I mean, 2023 outside of the foldable stuff felt like a lot of iterative updates to phones, which is fine. It's a more mature space. But dang it, what is the Nothing? Here we go. The Nothing 2A, a more affordable product from Nothing, which it looks like might be launching at Mobile World Congress. It could be a phone that actually gets into carriers.
That would be
maybe like a T-Mobile, and maybe
there's potential there. Yeah,
right. I wonder when you're a small company like that for a long time felt like they were just a technology showcase to do an acqui-hire kind of thing. Maybe this actually gets them a foothold and helps them sell phones, through a carrier.
With a little inside baseball from people who would probably say they were speaking off record, so I won't name them specifically or what companies they work with. The carrier deal is a double-edged sword. Because you have to build phones to carrier spec. You have to fulfill their demand. Your products will likely sit on store shelves and gather dust because they're consumers are bombarded by Samsung and Apple when they walk into the carrier store. So on the one hand, it's good because you made a sale to the carrier. Your customer is not the end user. Your customer is the carrier. So you can guarantee a number of units sold. But then if the carrier pulls a bunch of BS, sometimes you can be on the hook for things like, we had to slash prices. Like when the Galaxy S22 was performing so disastrously bad, they cut, people were just trying to offload the S22 and S22 Plus to such a degree that Samsung had to subsidize the price cuts and the sales that these carriers were doing. So I understand
and take the inventory back.
So I understand, you look at a company like Motorola and you've got a really nice premium Moto Edge, that doesn't end up on all carriers. Motorola's, they'll send you bulk phones for entry level and their stylus and all that stuff. Moto G, it's great. But a Moto Edge is something that's supposed to be a little bit nicer. They don't want the image of it just being the phone that's on some back shelf gathering dust that's being completely ignored by the carrier that's stocking it. So it's always that balance. I think if Nothing can find their way into, Nothing is a great phone to have it like a Mint Mobile or these MVNOs. I was about to name like 12 different MVNOs. You guys know what those are. But so one of those like mid-price, it's still a nicer service.
Generalized.
Yeah, it's a nicer service, but you're talking about people that would be buying A series phones, Galaxy A series, Pixel A series. The Nothing would do really well there. As a boutique-y, fun little light show of an alternative device,
absolutely.
I think that makes perfect sense.
And you're not having to scale your production with and have to worry so much about sell-through, because you're still it's gonna be a relatively small amount of phones on top of what you're ordering.
Yeah,
just for for your online store and you're in the multiple countries you're selling it in. So a relatively minimal investment. And I also, if you're going with an MVNO, you're not having to deal so much with all of the extra bloatware that and deals that these carriers do for like games and stuff like that.
Sometimes it's worse. It
does depend on
depending. I remember some of the
Metro,
worst. Yeah, and also Boost. I've had some terrible experiences trying to review like cheap phones that were destined for Boost, and like there's just so much garbage, and it gets like really insidious with like, this is your customer management app, and then if you try to disable it, it's like, well, now your phone doesn't work at all, and you're like, that's not okay.
No,
all right.
Now, I did have a great. I'll talk about one of my favorite devices that I reviewed this year is actually from a carrier rather than from a manufacturer. Yes. And it is the T-Mobile Revel 6X Pro.
The Revels are always solid. I love the Revel line. Yeah.
So this was I reviewed the 6X Pro and then the Revel tablet, I believe it was. But the Revel tablet was more in line with what I would expect for a connected AOSP almost level of software, which it was good.
Yeah.
Solid offering. I have it right over here. But the 6X Pro just offered so much for the money. I think it lands around $200 or free, obviously. If you buy it on contract. But Dimensity 700, obviously not a powerhouse, but it does give you 5G connectivity. Plenty of RAM. I think it had 250. I think mine had at least 128 gigabytes of storage, but a really minimal amount of stuff on top of Android, and it did ship with Android 13, which was great. And they seem to be updating it relatively frequently. I got a couple of security updates in the time I was using it, so
that's good.
Yeah. But the main thing is it had wireless charging. Wireless charging on a phone that costs $200.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the cameras
again, because sadly in North America, people don't know the joy of actual real fast charging. So they have to depend on this terrible solution of putting coils all over their house and having separate chargers that can't charge anything else because it's connected to a dock. It's really a shame, because if they had I've got this Vivo here with 120 watt, VOOC, and you're like, that's done from 0 to full in 20 minutes. And it runs really cool while you charge from 0 to full in 20 minutes.
It is really amazing.
You don't have those battery anxiety. So to go along with what I feel was kind of a good enthusiast theme for 2023. I actually kind of disagree that the phone was. I'm fighting you, Clifton. We're arguing now. I kind of disagree that this year was actually iterative, because we had one of the single biggest gains in silicon year over year that we've ever seen my entire career in reviewing phones. Going from the awful Samsung produced 8 Gen 1 to one of the all-time best SoCs Qualcomm and TSMC have ever put out. And I really do feel that the 8 Gen 2 is going to be remembered for people who are into mobile gaming, for people who are into content creation, for just people who want a really nice experience with great battery life. This is going to be one of those chips that sticks around for years, like the 865 and the 870 did. We got 4 years out of that chip. I think someone put out a product this year with an 870, which is that came out 2020.
I think it was. So actually, it was a Poco phone, wasn't it?
I think so. But anyway, that's how good that chip was. The 8 Gen 2 is going to be like that.
Yeah, and even the 8 Gen 1 Plus which also was
but again, it was because they switched back
4 nanometer.
TSMC.
Yeah.
But I just mean in terms of that like straight up year over year, 8 Gen 1 to 8 Gen 2. And this is also the year that we saw a significant uptick in camera consistency. So when you started getting into the premium and ultra tier phones, you saw matched camera sensors that really delivered a more fluid, hey, it's a parrot. You finished it. That's amazing. Good job.
I can start participating in the conversation again. Get a Snapdragon.
So, or I mean, a 9200 Plus was a screamer in that Xiaomi 13T. But this year we're going to go into next year really hyping up AI, getting these chips that have even significantly higher graphics performance, but they're still being fed by smartphone batteries. I really think that's a disastrous combo when you've got a chip that's even more powerful, but it draws even more power. We don't have a lot of AI to test. Like, I've got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 and I've got a Dimensity 9300 here, and I cannot find on-device, offline AI tasks to test them with.
Yeah.
They don't exist.
I have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3.
I also have a Dimensity 90, the little squares up there, rectangles. So when we look at 2023, we got this incredible high-performance, enthusiast-grade. And unfortunately, it's only going into like the top like 8% of Android phones, and people are missing what was sort of like a golden age for high-level compute performance, high productivity, high content creation, great gaming capabilities, and when you pair that with international phones that had other features like super fast charging and ridiculous camera sensors. That was a conversation we were just excluded from here in North America. We really didn't get any of that. So that to me is like, when we look at that transition, I'm anxious about 2024. I actually don't think 2024 is gonna be as good. In some specific applications, we're gonna have a ton more horsepower. Great. I can play Alien Isolation at 110 frames per second on a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. The phone is nuclear hot. I know how to say nuclear. I just do that for dramatic effect. It's nuclear hot, but it can sustain 110 frames per second in a PC port of one of the all-time best scary movie video games that's ever been made. It plays so much nicer than it can on most people's desktop rigs. When you start talking
with
100
hardware
frames
ray
per second.
tracing and all the other things that the new Adreno is.
So Alien Isolation doesn't have ray tracing, but you do click on VSync and wider field of view, film grain, and chromatic aberrations. So it looks like old film.
That's really
so it's got a lot of graphics layering on top of it. And it's doing the high profile graphics at full, it's 1080p resolution, but then it's cranking 110 frames per second.
That's
it's
insane
like,
on a phone.
I can't go back to playing the game at 30 frames per second. It looks like such garbage. But if you're not doing something like that with your phone, no, I've got a controller mount, so it holds the phone for me. So I'm playing on an actual controller, but it's mounted above my hands. This is one of those perpetual. I soapbox about this all the time, so I'll shut up here. But I get so upset because I feel people get so anxious about buying a new phone. It's such a chore. You know, by the time they've set up their new phone and they've got all their things moved over and they've installed the apps that they were familiar with before, they're not excited to use the new tech. This is just their mandatory, compulsory communications gadget, but they're not looking to do anything new. And that's the worst place to be. Instead, if you're doing the same thing on your phone every time you get a new phone, you should spend less, because you'll get the same experience you had before for cheaper. Instead, people think they have to kind of go off and buy the most expensive every year because that's what they had before. And then they're like, but what else does it do? This is so iterative. It doesn't do anything new. And you're like, no. It does a lot new. You are trying new things to do with
go there.
have to be curious. And I think 2024 is actually going to be a weaker year for that than 2023 was.
Now with
I would say I agree with you there, but at the same time, and maybe this is just because Windows on ARM hasn't really been on my radar all that much, but I'm
it's
kind
so
of excited
good.
to see what I'm kind of interested to see like how good Windows on ARM can be in 2024. And I just spent a week talking about Snapdragon X Elite. Oh, okay. There you go. And so like I just spent a week talking about the Snapdragon. And so, but I know there are other chips out there, but like the X1 Elite seems so good and so poised to just turn computing, like portable computing, into like such a major, like accessible, democratized thing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that pans out because that should be pretty great.
I'm a big fan of like little mini PCs. I've been working on these little AMD and these little laptop grade Intel boxes, but for a lot of my family and friends, I've been saying, if you can wait, because I think by the time we get to June, July, we'll get announcements for the first X Elites. And I'm not even anxious. I'm not even excited about the most powerful versions because I think they did 2-tier models. Like one was like a 30 watt and the other one was like an 80 watt.
Yeah.
If they can pull off what they're claiming for the 30 watt, that is going to be ridiculous, huge upgrade. Right now, I'm telling people, exactly. I'm telling people, if you're getting a laptop today, what you're really getting is a portable desktop. In Windows land, we don't have portable compute devices. We have take them to another place and plug them in devices. And X Elite stands to shake a lot of that up. So for that tier, I completely agree. Windows on ARM is flipping amazing. The people who complain about Windows on ARM don't know what the F they're talking about. The problem has been not a how do I want to say this? The problem hasn't been Windows on ARM. The problem has been putting a middling ARM chip in an expensive machine. So your performance per dollar is kind of crap. Like you look at a Surface Pro 9 and you're like, the SQ3 is kind of in the territory of like a Core i3, but you're charging me even more than if I got a Core i5. So the performance per dollar is upside down. But if you have Windows on ARM, you also have Android 13. You can also install Linux apps. And all these people like, oh, but it doesn't run my legacy x86 programs from like 50 years ago when I need to use Windows compatibility mode and drivers that Microsoft hasn't updated in 20 years. And you're like, yeah, move on.
Well, those are the people. Those are the people that are. I mean, at least a lot of them are still running, Windows 7 or Windows 2000.
I know. Because I won't let go of Windows 10. And you're like, okay, cool.
Well, no,
they still have like virtual COM ports and things so that they can, interface with the Lego machines. But to me, the bottleneck actually, for me at least, besides the fact that, I mean, like you were saying, dollar per dollar, that the performance just wasn't there compared to a comparable.
Well,
in this case,
I liked there was another tablet, the Robo and Kala. I bring this one up a lot on my podcast.
$599 for that? What a deal.
For a Core i3 slate with a proper desktop grade operating system, you get to use real versions of Microsoft Office. It supports multiple monitor output. It's got upgradable storage. So it's like in the ballpark of a really nice iPad with an OLED display and pen support, and you can swap the SSD. What iPad can you ever upgrade the storage? Windows on ARM was amazing. Oh, puppy!
It's
Windows on ARM
podcast, so we got a puppy.
Has been fantastic. The problem has been performance per dollar. And I agree with a lot of people there. The performance per dollar has been out of whack. But if you're complaining about like software incompatibilities, and you're also then saying like, but average consumers care about legacy software support, you can miss me. You're the worst reviewer on the planet.
So for me, the issue was, because I'm in Adobe stuff, and there are some there are some Adobe apps that I think it's now Illustrator and Photoshop. But there's no InDesign support. I don't think that
Yep, but Affinity runs great if you want to switch over to a good photo editing software. GIMP has native libraries for ARM. So if you want, again, it's not as nice as Photoshop, but if you don't ever have to buy it, GIMP is free. And DaVinci Resolve is going to be switching, and they're going to be supporting ARM later next year. And this is the perfect time to let go of Premiere, because Premiere is garbage. And you buy DaVinci Resolve once, and then you never spend another nickel on it ever again. I started with DaVinci 15, and we're on DaVinci 18. I've spent $200 on DaVinci Resolve Studio, and then I never spent another nickel on it ever again.
That's awesome.
That's what I do miss about. This is where software as a service just gets me, and I understand exactly why companies have moved to this model. But I mean, I have the original SQ1 Surface Pro X. Really just an awesome machine for like your day-to-day, just browsing the web. At the same time, I could probably do the same thing with exactly. But I could probably do the same thing with a Chromebook. At that point.
Well, and that's the perfect fight, isn't it? Because like we throw these things up like, oh, you could get like a $300 Chromebook, and you're like, yeah, but the processor in your phone is more powerful than a $300 Chromebook. So let's really make sure we're trying to keep these performance tiers active. But now, again, Chromebooks are getting better software support, and there's always the second life for Chromebooks that you can flip them over to Linux. And this is a good year to get nerds looking back at things like Linux software, Linux apps. The Steam Deck has been incredible for kind of sprucing up some of that Linux conversation. Chromebooks helped get me back into Linux just because you could run an Ubuntu runtime inside Chrome OS. Same thing with Windows 11 now. And when you start playing with how good that open source, that FOSS software really has gotten, it's harder and harder to make the same recommendation that I need to stick with this paid subscription app just because I'm familiar with it. A lot of tech consumers out there, they're fine jumping back and forth. Like one of my friends just got a Windows 11 laptop, and they were mad that they didn't have Movie Maker. And you're like, no, you just do Clipchamp. And he was like, oh, okay. And you're like, that was it. He was done. But if I go into a YouTube video in the comments and I say, well, if you just change from this app to this app, you're fine. They're, who could ever imagine that someone would change their behavior and do something different or learn something new? And that's uniquely techies. Regular people have no problems being told that they can do the same thing. It's just in a different app. Like, they get it. They click and they're like, okay, well, this works for me and I can still do the same thing. I'm fine. And that's, to me, is like, you start pointing out Linux stuff.
I'd agree with you, Juan.
It's gotten so good.
I'd agree with you on that one, but I sold a lot of Macs back in the day trying to say that, hey, it works just the same way over here, but also this and this and this. But
the Apple side of the conversation is always going to be suspect because Apple breaks things so that you can't leave. I'm talking about the Windows side of it. You can kind of move people around and say like, oh yeah, Windows 10 to Windows 11, we don't use Movie Maker anymore. No, check out Clipchamp. It's really great. And then they do, and they're like, oh yeah, this is way better than what I was using before.
We also, in 2023 on the channel, I had what was and still is a very powerful computer. It was a HP ZBook Studio. With an 8th gen Core i7, which still, it's a quad core processor. And I threw Pop! OS on it. From System 76.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, like I used to dabble in Linux all the time, but I kind of had a conversation with Adam on this about like I feel like it would be an interesting experiment to try to do most of what I do like workflow wise on open source competitors to what Adobe offers. I definitely think you can do it on the video side, and definitely as far as image editing with GIMP, and even with Inkscape if you're talking about vector graphics. The one like stumbling block was there's not a great open source like InDesign or Quark Express competitor. That was where I ran. That was what I ran into, but still an interesting conversation. Like and it runs great.
It's like you can find these kind of like little pockets where obviously there are still a few things that people need to sort out, but I feel like the sort of the enthusiast side of this conversation, the joy of experimenting and of finding that software has kind of tarnished, where I don't face the same resistance from my non-tech enthusiast family and friends. And that's kind of singular. Like, I'm talking about my brother and his wife, and they're like just stoked to get Pixel 6s, and they're off and running. She had an iPhone, and she is excited to be playing with new apps and different things, and this setting, and look at these transcribe features and the call waiting, and like she's actually digging into all of it. Yeah. It's not just, I got another iPhone, so let me set it up so I can use my iPhone exactly the same way that I used my old iPhone. And I feel like we front load this average consumer conversation, not really paying attention to what average consumers are doing. Because they're doing a ton of stuff with video. They're doing a ton of stuff with social media. They are sharing and uploading and editing and podcasting. And they're doing all this crazy stuff. And it seems to be techies who are stuck in their ways and are resistant to trying new things right now, which is really sad. Because then you go into YouTube comments and it's just a sea of, who would do that? This is too expensive. It should have been cheaper. And you're like, that. You guys are, you completely lost it. You're so off the plot right now.
And it's always a mistake to try to even engage in a logical conversation, because you just end up going in circles because people have their pre-built-in arguments for everything. So it's just not worth it. But it's nice to have some alternatives. I'll just say briefly, you were talking about a Qualcomm and Chromebooks or a Qualcomm and Windows on ARM. I'm excited to see if there's like the second punch from MediaTek, maybe. Because I know the Dimensity 9300 is supposed to be great for the phone side. But I mean, I don't think they've got the wholly new architecture kind of thing coming anytime soon. I mean, they've got the Campanio series, or I don't know, Campanio. I'm not sure how you say it, but
1300T is very reminiscent of a chip like the Snapdragon 865.
Right.
So it
for like that Chromebook and then like up a little bit, there's plenty of power from, but you get what I'm saying.
We could do something new. The 865 was from 2020. We could shake that up a little bit. So I think
we have room to wiggle.
9300. A little. There's some headroom in there we're not exploring. The 9300, it is task specific because it is a ridiculously powerful chip. I just put out an article on Patreon doing my first round of high performance testing. I'm looking at video editing and rendering. I'm looking at podcast mixing. I'm looking at batched photo processing, Lightroom style. I'm looking at RAR file compression, like things that would really offload work from a laptop done directly on the phone. And without getting into exact numbers, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is exactly what we would expect as a generational improvement over the 8 Gen 2.
Okay.
The Dimensity 9300 in tasks like video rendering is another generational improvement on top of the 8 Gen 3, but it happened in 1 year. So it's really like a twofold. The CPU compute power of the 9300, it cannot be properly expressed when you look at Geekbench scores. When you look at Antutu, you have no idea what you're actually capable of doing and getting real world work done. And it is a twofold generational increase over where we were with the 9200 plus. It is like nothing I've ever seen. It does run a little thirstier than the 9200 plus.
Right.
So your battery, if you're a grown up, now again, a lot of techies out there seem to be children that need their phones to hold their hands. I'm looking at the camera for this part. If you're a grown up and you tell your computer, work the hardest you possibly can, and I don't care about the power draw, you can make that choice as a grown up, and the phone will do it. And the phone will rise to that occasion. So what you're saying, Clifton, like, I'm going to be shocked if we don't see something from MediaTek early into next year saying, hey, we've got plans for Chromebooks, we've got plans for Windows laptops too. Right. The core design as a proof of concept for the 9300 is working out really well. And if you could put this chip into a larger body with a bigger battery and active cooling, I think you're ready to go. Yeah, I think you're ready to go, like mid-range to nice consumer grade laptops. You wouldn't really even need to redesign this chip. Yeah.
Nice.
That's
nice.
Well, that's what I'm excited about, and I'm also excited that there are now apparently some good Linux ports for ARM that are coming out that are like more consumer accessible and are easy to update. For that more for people that aren't command line nerds. So that's kind of exciting. 2024 for I think for like the PC, laptop, mobile side that aren't phones, I think is going to be really exciting. Not to say that phones are going to be boring, but it's that I've been looking forward to great Windows on ARM PCs for a long time. The instant on, the performance, and hopefully finally we'll have even better software support. They can be taken more seriously because hopefully the software developers will start compiling and supporting it, because there will be a larger market share of laptops that actually can take advantage of it.
You had like also just listed, because one of the things you wanted to talk about was portable gaming, which I think is also another area where Windows is facing the most competition Windows has ever seen from players that we might not have expected. Like I've got my Steam Deck over here within arm's reach, just like this is rekindled. Yeah, I didn't install Windows on this thing. It's been great without Windows.
Right.
But I also think we're going to see even more high and low competition, like all of the Aya, the Neos, the retro consoles. I've got the Razer also over here. So it's just like a little mini tablet with active cooling and a game controller snapped onto it.
Yeah.
Like Windows is not as indomitable in this space as a lot of enthusiasts like to make it seem.
Yeah.
So
we're going to be
quite
having
the
a
contrary
conversation about that.
Yeah. Yeah, quite the contrary. Windows is not great when it comes to like handheld games. Juan, I just want to comment on this. Your camera, what camera are you using? Because
I'm going to guess it's the Insta360.
No.
I have the Lumix G9 with.
Okay, so it's a DSLR.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean,
a mirrorless
Micro Four Thirds.
The AI following you around is like instantaneous.
It's really good.
It is just like that's on.
That's
like,
NVIDIA broadcast.
Panasonic's. Oh,
that's NVIDIA broadcast. Okay.
Yeah, NVIDIA broadcast is pretty cool because you've also got like noise canceling and things built into that as well, don't you?
So I can also I can jump way in closer.
Yeah.
And then when I move, it's gonna follow. Just kind of all around. Ooh. I don't like to be right up my nose though, so I'll move it back.
I just happened to notice that like while you were moving around, like grabbing things, I'm like, wow, that's like
it's comfy.
Really on. That's really good.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah,
anyway,
I'm on the workstation. It's got a decent GPU, so it's hanging in there.
I bet. So like the other thing that. Man, I just had a thought on like something that I was looking forward to in 2024, and it was actually seemed to be a good way to kind of button things up. And for the life of me, I can't remember it because I got distracted.
We started with like portable
camera.
gaming, and then you said I agree with Juan. Windows is not indomitable in the portable gaming space. I thought I had made a really good point.
Yeah,
you backed
on the
me
contrary,
up, So
I just noticed that.
I just noticed that's usually a good way. That's usually a good way to.
If you see Adam from like here, this is a great comment on his birthday. He's starting to look a little Wilford Brimley.
Okay, yeah.
Diabetes.
Eat your oatmeal.
Okay, I can get on board with that. No, oh god damn, this is gonna drive me nuts now. Because like we're gonna hang up and I'm gonna be like, oh, and we're gonna have to go back and edit it, and it's gonna be terrible. But no, never mind. Just talk about yourselves. I'll think about it for a minute.
I can't unsee it.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
You just need some like
I'm just gonna
glasses
right
that
here.
have the transitions. So they're kind of they're like 50% shaded. Pretend that you worked in
that
security
70s gradient where before we had transitions, they would like.
Oh yes.
So no, I got it.
Oh, he's got it.
I'm looking forward to T2 in 2024.
For all those poor people that don't have actual fast charging. I feel bad for them.
Just because I'm a MagSafe whore, and I'm looking forward to this coming to Android phones properly, and not just like with a case that you can buy.
I'm with you in that we have concerns with the way that Qi works. I was a huge advocate for Qi back in the Qi versus PMA days on Nokia devices. I thought that was stupid. And I really thought Qi charging could be something really cool. One of the problems we found, and there have been a few pretty solid studies on this, if you don't perfectly align the coils, you waste a ton of electricity and you cook the internals of the receiving device, the power receiving device. So Apple did something, this is one of the only things in recent memory for modern Apple where they are contributing their magnet design for the Qi standard. Apple has broken every other standard they've participated with over the last several years. They've actually contributed to this one. It's kind of shocking. But this is a good step. It will reduce power consumption. It should hopefully improve battery longevity. But on the whole, you're still looking at wasting power. Now, someone might not care that they need a 20-watt charger to charge their phone at 10 watts. Maybe that doesn't add up over the course of a year and you don't care about burning off that extra electricity. But I really feel that this is a huge missed opportunity for companies that really do support fast charging, because you don't have coils, you just have a regular USB cable. Your charger can charge other devices in the house. My Warp chargers also charge my laptops. And that works really well because now I don't have to have a laptop charger and a phone charger. They work the same. And my phones are charged so quickly now, I have no battery anxiety. I'm not looking for a charger. I don't need to trickle charge all the time. I'm not constantly doing charge-discharge cycles on my phone.
That's the nice
thing.
thing.
You see,
but I don't want both. I just want the fast charging.
All I keep hearing is yada, 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 MagSafe is awesome. Okay, so I mean, I'm glad that we're on the same page there, Juan. I'm glad that we agree.
It's telling that in the face of data, your reply is yada, 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 I don't care about substantially better data.
Don't care. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
So, I mean, that's how Apple makes all their money.
Boom, look at that. Bang,
accessories,
baby.
Accessories, how everybody makes all their money. Although, it can be argued Apple actually has pretty significant margins, although we don't know. But that is... in everything that they
amazing. Sell. You know what? I cannot wait for the first set of earbuds to come out with Qi 2 in them so you could stick them on the back of your Qi 2 Android phone and charge them. It's going to be great. I'm going to love it. I'm going to love every second of it. And it's going to be great.
We recently made a joke, Juan, on I was the Christmas show that I don't know if you're familiar with Adam's gaffer tape obsession.
Oh, I've got a roll of white gaff right here. Yeah. So always within arm's reach are gaff tapes.
See? He's been using that for anti-skid on his phones rather than using a case, which I mean, I'm all for it. But so the joke was that he was going to be buried like this, like in one hand gaffer's tape and the other a wireless charger. Just like
Yep.
Yeah. And it'll probably happen sooner because with the wireless charging, all the extra heat, he's probably going to wear out sooner. So it's a bummer. I'll be sad to see him go, but he doesn't care. So,
but you know what?
That's fine.
I can stick myself to my dashboard and take it off when I need it to, and it's going to be fine. So I
guess
I have very strange, very fast.
This is this analogy.
I mean, I just like what battery anxiety someone has to be under. I was doing battery testing on the OnePlus 11. And at 80%, I think I told this to you guys, maybe in the last time I was here. I had the phone at 80% and I needed to run the battery all the way out. So I turned it up to max brightness. I turned on the boosted performance, so it's running as hard and as aggressive as it possibly can. I split screened it to stream video so that the screen wouldn't turn off. And then I ran Geekbenches over and over and over for over 4 hours.
Good Lord.
Just so I could run the battery down. So the people that are out there like, well, I've got to constantly be trickle charging my... What are you doing? I charge my phone 10 minutes a day, and then it lasts me 2 days of my use in ridiculous situations for video editing and rendering and handling social media and stuff. I don't get it. it's such a wasteful addition to our phones, burns electricity,
Sure.
and the accessories are more expensive, and they'll all be e-waste at some point.
I get what you're saying, but can you stick your wallet to the back of your phone? I don't think so.
I don't need wireless charging for that. I just need the magnets. So yes, I can. I've got like a little cooler right over here, and it's got magnets on it, and I just stick it to the case on anything that I want to run the cooler on, and I don't do the charging because that's wasteful. I just have the cooler where I want it.
The whole MagSafe package, baby. So, and Juan, you have to understand.
No, you don't care about the charging. You obviously don't, because you slow charge. You only care about your wallet being stuck to the back of a phone. And I have this handy little clip here on my Pixel 8 Pro that does not have MagSafe or Qi 2, and I can stick a wallet onto the back of this. I don't need wireless charging for that.
You got the new colorway from
you don't understand, Juan.
Design.
MagSafe allowed me to wage my one-man war against the Lightning connector for 3 years.
That is also Apple licensing and digging into your pockets to keep you on an inferior accessory standard, and you kept giving them money for it.
No, 3 years. I did not plug a single Lightning cable into my iPhone. It was all MagSafe.
Yes.
All the time,
because we all have USB-C. I have not plugged a Lightning connector into a phone for years either.
Right? No, I get
literally
that.
the Michael Jackson meme where he's got the bucket of cup popcorn from.
No, I got you. I'm just saying, MagSafe is the poo, and you better take a big whiff. That's all. So
I will say one thing about Qi, and I think this or wireless charging, and even when it was Palm's technology, whose name I can't remember, which is terrible. With web Touchstone. There we go. Touchstone. It does, especially if you've got it everywhere. It encourages bad behavior in terms of taking care of your battery, because people just stick it on there. I mean, it's the same people who leave their laptop plugged in all the time.
Yeah,
and
they do have.
It is wearing out your phone.
Also, they have also guilty.
And they, these days phones are smart enough to have some, if you turn it on anyway, some of it doesn't turn on, out of the box, but to manage the charging of your battery so it doesn't wear it out as fast. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's a technology of convenience rather than of,
I think the thing that bummed me out when we got out of those Nokia days and we finally said PMA was stupid and we got rid of the competing non-standard, we saw this rush. And we started seeing coils being put into a lot of public spaces. But those coils are largely gone now. Like, there are no Starbucks around me that have the table built in.
Starbucks was a PMA. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But again, you had the tables built into them. Also, things like IKEA accessories.
Yeah.
They still run a little collection of wireless charging accessories, but for the most part, they've kind of stopped iterating on that. And so we've kind of given up this vision of you can constantly go everywhere. And I have to believe that when we might not care about adding 20 watts to one charger in one place in our home, that's always going to be vampire wasted energy. If you're Starbucks Corporation and you're looking at every single Starbucks across the United States, and all of them have multiple charge pads, and all of them now double the wattage to charge at half the speed, that is going to be additional electricity costs across numerous stores. And I think a lot of businesses went, for the same price, we can add a bunch of ports and people can plug in whatever kind of cable or whatever kind of charger. And this is going to be easier for us to maintenance, less expensive for us to install, and easier for our employees to support, that we don't have different devices that have different needs. It's up to the consumer to bring a cable to plug in their phones. I think that's where I finally kind of fell off the wireless charging train, is the promise of this never really materialized. But it never became this ubiquitous place where anytime I set my phone down, I'll get like 5% on my battery. And that's really, I think, the last kind of transition point for me.
So let's just need to not
worry about trickle charging.
Where we imagine that just the wireless charging in general disappears. It's never existed. We're in an alternate reality. You still, if you're trying to make fast charging ubiquitous, you still run into a similar problem that conceptually electric vehicles are running into. There are competing standards, some of which are significantly better than the other. I mean, you're looking at VOOC versus Qualcomm's, and I'm sure that maybe MediaTek has something of their own for rapid charging. I don't know.
So MediaTek's power management chips have been in a number of these solutions already.
Okay.
So MediaTek doesn't have a battery charging technology. They make the little computer bits that manage the voltage and amperage and regulate it all. And you know, Qualcomm, I think, took a bigger position and a more public position on power delivery. And quick charge was one of their standards to come out of it too. So it's not to say that it's perfect, but you know, if I can find power delivery, then my Vivos still charge faster than my Samsungs.
Yeah.
If I can plug into a 45 watt power delivery, I am still charging faster than a 45 watt Samsung standard will accomplish. And I'm charging significantly faster than any iPhone on a 30 watt standard. So it's you're not wrong, but even if I don't have VOOC, I'm still charging way faster than Qi. Yeah. So that's like, as long as you know what those different parts and pieces do, sure. But I went and put a OnePlus car charger in my car, and that charges at 50 watts. So I'm plugged in.
I'm sorry.
And that's really fast.
I've been thinking about all these vehicles that even that are priced in the 30s now that have inbuilt wireless charging, and it goes a lot more than that. But just you know, huge, gigantic LCD panels, and the fact that cars are basically just rolling computers now. There's almost nothing you can work on in themselves. But
you see the new Xiaomi EV? It's a smartphone on wheels.
Oh my god! Did you see
the most gadgety car I've ever seen?
Did you see that Chris Bangle is a design consultant for them?
Yeah.
Ew.
Oh man, I love it. It's so nerdy.
All right.
Anyway,
we do need to start wrapping up a little bit.
Sure, but Clifton's getting to a point, and
it's just I'm just the thing that I've thought about, and it's different with a phone, right? Because as much as we hate to say it, they're more of a disposable technology. Thankfully, there are electronic recycling centers and things set up to do that. We just have junkyards for cars, basically, and people do recycle parts out of those. But how? I'm just really curious to see how poorly non-Tesla vehicles are going to age, because they're still set up on the old way of doing things.
The conversation gets complicated with the varying generations of technology, because we can say how will non-Teslas age, but then Hyundai is ahead of Tesla for faster charging tech. So how are Teslas going to age compared to Hyundais that can charge faster than all of those older Model 3s? So now Teslas are just as obsolete as older EVs were when Tesla came out. But to your point, I mean, one of the reasons why we're seeing so much regulator activity in this space is because it's not okay that our phones are just as disposable as they currently are. This is mountains of e-waste and tons of rare earth elements that are being used in the construction. The human labor costs are insane. And that's why I feel we should all be supporting the initiative that in 2026 or 2027, that all phones are going to have easily replaceable batteries. I'm actually a little less anxious about wireless charging in phones when the user can replace an aging cell that has been burned out because wireless charging is inefficient, and then their phone isn't completely e-waste. They can take that cell to a place that will more responsibly recycle just the battery technology. And it's the entire infrastructure of that I feel the manufacturers have been complicit in creating a system of planned obsolescence. And until auto manufacturers are responsible for the entire circle of life, because right now they make a product and then it's kind of up to state by state here in the United States how those things are handled. But I don't think that should be the case. I think they should be a part of the solution for what happens with end of life. But really, I'm hoping that a cell phone manufacturer will come out maybe in 2025 and say, we want to be ahead of the curve. Our phones now have replaceable batteries ahead of the EU mandate. And that is a company I will be excited to support with my wallet, to say that is a responsible business practice, that is going to be better for consumers, and we should just be there already. We shouldn't be waiting until the last possible minute to flip the switch on that strategy.
Yeah, and I think at some point, especially with generations that are starting to come into like the buying age, where they start making fiscal decisions for themselves and voting with their wallets, specifically like the generation that's older than our kids, the like people that are graduating high school now, seem to be almost reminding me of the way we were, like Save the Whales, kind of that generation, and recycle.
Have you seen this like little pocket trend of kids going back to flip phones?
No, but I like it.
I'm all for it.
So
it's crazy.
But maybe they will. Maybe with the way that they purchase, hopefully it'll encourage and make it fiscally a motivation for manufacturers to do things more like what, maybe not to the level that like the Fairphone works. Where
I just think it's silly.
Serviceable.
I think it's silly to hold off on it because it monetizes repair.
Sure.
It makes these things accessories. Backplates are accessories. Cases are accessories. Different styles of wireless charging coils are accessories. The company would actually make more money over the life of this phone instead of trying to say, well, now you've got to buy a whole new phone. And we know that consumers are trying. When the average length of ownership is over 2 years, that means more people are trying to make it to year 4 than are trying to flip their phone every year. So you could monetize those consumers. You could make a lot more money off of those consumers and just get on board. It doesn't make any sense to fight that trend.
There also may, just as, maybe not in the next year, but I think as rare earth elements are being even more rapidly
harder to get a hand of,
because of our relationship with China. As in particular, if we're talking about us, but also just electric cars, batteries are becoming used more and more and more. It's just that the accessibility to some of these materials is going to require that we start being a lot better at recycling things, and having policies that encourage it.
Exactly.
So we can end it there. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I do this a lot where I soapbox.
No,
that's totally my fault.
It's an interesting conversation.
I just want to kind of bring it back. Full circle because, Cliff, you mentioned the generation that's older than our kids that's graduating high school now. My son is graduating high school now, just FYI. But next year. That. But anyway, so we were talking about Christmas gifts at the beginning of this episode, and my son got a 3D printer for Christmas, which is fun, and especially since one of the first things he 3D printed was a ring with BOTD for benefit of the Doud.
That's awesome.
I think that is a perfect way to.
Twin powers activate.
We're gonna let him stick around for a while. So Cliff, make sure you send me your ring size at some point, and I'll get one off in the mail to you. But anyway, having said that, that is going to do it for this final episode of 2023 of the Benefit of the Doud podcast. Please consider subscribing to this channel if you enjoyed it by hitting that subscribe button, smashing that bell so you can be notified of new episodes and reviews as they drop. Also, be sure to like this video because we love that feedback. And if you want some early access, jump onto Patreon, patreon.com/benefit of the Doud. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes and on camera for all of this year. Since we pivoted to YouTube, he has been indispensable. And I would also like to thank Juan Carlos Bagnell for coming onto the show not once but twice in the month of December, and for helping us ring in a new year and helping me celebrate another trip around the sun. But most of all, and as always, I'd like to thank you all for listening and for giving us the benefit of the Doud.